60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all.
Welcome to The Last Word here at Team MBS Media. Of course, I am Jeff Barnes along with Greg Rector here to recap your college day. And an exciting day it has been, Greg. How are you feeling today?
I'm still upset with the Nittany Lions, but okay, we'll discuss that. Yeah.
I warned you. I tried. Listen, I try to tell Penn State folks, it's all good, whatever you do all year long until you get to Ohio State. He just does not beat Ohio State. I've said it time and time again.
And it wasn't the big stand at the end of the game here that won Ohio State this game. It was the way they came back after being down 10-0 after the Nittany Lions had gotten the pick six. James Franklin did not stop the Ohio State Buckeyes on two straight drives, and all of a sudden it was 14-10. And that was it. That was the game right then and there. Donovan Jackson, who is an outstanding left guard, has been moved out to left tackle because of their injury situation for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he was dominant at left tackle today. I mean, he was damn good for having to shift his spot. And if people think that's an easy transition to make, they're just nuts, because playing left tackle is a whole lot different from playing left guard. And wow, I mean, it was just a stunning wave to see Penn State just go down that way. But that's college football.
It is indeed. So we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Unbeatens went down today.
Iowa State lost, and they went for 2 points instead of kicking the convert. Had they just kicked that convert, you would have had an overtime game. But nope, you didn't do it.
So just to recap some of the scores from earlier, for those folks that are, just, getting home from work or enjoying your day, let's start with the early games. Hawaii beats Fresno State 21-20. Mississippi State, they had this real, tough game versus UMass. No, they blew them up.
No, yeah, that was UMass is not a very tough opponent, that's for sure.
Coastal Carolina goes down to Troy for 38-24.
Yep.
Wyoming survives New Mexico 49-45. Marshall, big win over the University of Louisiana Monroe. They get that win 28-23. Middle Tennessee State tops UTEP 20-13. UCF back in the win column. I drove past there on my way to Daytona today. 56-12 over Zona, the Desert Swarm.
Yeah.
ASU, though, goes into Oklahoma State and wins 42-21. The Dancing Gundies not dancing right now. UNC, 2 wins in a row. Thank God for Florida State, 35-11.
1-8 for Norvell.
Yeah. UCLA tops Nebraska. Didn't expect that one. That score, 27-20. Shocker. Unranked Houston tops Kansas State 24-19. That, to me, puts Kansas State out of the playoff. I don't believe they make the playoff, even if they go on a run from here. I don't.
And this also now makes a certain school coached by Primetime much more eligible to be in a championship game.
Yep. So yeah, Kansas State dropping their second loss, another loss, but this time to an unranked Houston team. It's definitely going to hurt them come playoff time.
Yeah.
So Texas Tech, another upset. Iowa State, 23-22. unranked Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Iowa State's going to take a hit because of that. Unranked team comes in and beats you in your own house. Georgia, have many people very nervous there in Georgia, trailing Florida most of the day. They come back, take the lead, and pull away 34-20. But
The
lot of
rookie
indigestion in Georgia earlier today in Athens.
Well, the rookie quarterback for Florida went out with his hamstring injury, and then this kid comes in who's a transfer from Yale, and he played pretty darn well. And all of a sudden, Florida tied up the game 20-20, but then the mistakes happened and Georgia got 2 late touchdowns.
You know, isn't it interesting? We talk about a quarterback playing well in Florida. We talk about Legway. We talk about the transfer from Yale. We don't talk about Graham Mertz. You know,
well, his season's over anyway because of the injury, right? So his
season
ends.
It's just ironic that we talk about every quarterback playing well in Florida except for him.
Well, there's another quarterback who's playing quite well tonight from the University of Iowa. It's not Cade McNamara.
Oh yeah, well we'll get into that one. That's one of the current games. Yeah. So back to the earlier scores. How about them Hoosiers, man? We keep talking about the Hoosiers undefeated. 47-10 all over Michigan State. Sparty, not very good today. It was almost like the 300 at the end of the movie, not the beginning. Moving on. Oregon, all over Michigan, 38-17 at the Big House, as expected. Michigan can't score with them.
And there was a big controversy because the Oregon Ducks got a touchdown that they shouldn't have gotten. It didn't go to replay and all this other nonsense. But again, Michigan fans, I'm sorry to tell you, it still would have been 31-17. So your guys got pounded anyway. Okay, it was not a ripoff. Although Gary Danielson's commentary was ridiculous at that point. Oh, that sucks. Okay, yeah, sure, Gary. I mean, come on. Oregon is just loaded for bear this year. They are loaded. Yeah.
Well, Trent Dilfer got a win. UAB 59, Tulsa 21. App State 28, Old Dominion 20. Vandy tops Auburn 17-7. UTSA tops Memphis in a shocker there, 44-36. Toledo holds on by 1 over Eastern Michigan, 29-28.
That was a wild ending.
Yes. Buffalo tops Akron, 41-30. Syracuse, a big shocker at home, beats Virginia Tech, 38-31. NC State tops Stanford, 59-28. Northwestern tops Purdue in overtime, 26-20. Oklahoma in a shocker over Maine, 59-14. Minnesota tops Illinois, 25-17. Army continues to roll, 20-3 over Air Force.
Without Bryson Daly at quarterback.
Ole Miss, big win over Arkansas. No Pig Suey tonight. Chop Suey is 63-31.
That was just a horrifying game. Oh, it was horrifying. It was bad.
Miami pulls away from Duke, who was also in another sweater there, 53-31. OSU, which we'll get into that game, 20-13 over Penn State. Nevada currently leads Colorado. Oh, no, it trailed Colorado State 28-14. We're all tied up with Baylor and TCU at 20. SMU, on the other hand, is all over Pitt 34-3.
There's another shocker.
Tennessee has expanded their lead to 21-10 over Kentucky. And we'll get into some of the other current scores going on as we speak. But first, we got to go backwards. Let's get into that Iowa State game. Greg, what are your feelings on the Iowa State loss?
Well, like I said earlier, they could have gone for the single point. They would have had 23 points. But they decided to go for 2 on that play, and it didn't happen for them. And wow, Texas Tech, They just came down that field, and the quarterback scored from 7 yards out, and that was it. Ball game, because there was only 20 seconds left.
Yeah, that loss hurt.
Oh, yeah.
They needed to keep pace. They needed to keep up this undefeated streak till they got to the real heavy part of the schedule. This is a game that you desperately needed. You could not have a letdown today. They had it. So to lose to an unranked team always hurts.
Yep.
This late in the season hurts even more.
Even more.
So they're going to fall some. How far depends on how bad people see this loss. We're going to see. We're going to see. Moving on to the other surprising game, Kansas State.
It was ugly to watch that game. It was ugly. Giddens and Avery Johnson just could not run against the Houston Cougars today. And when Houston was basically walking away with this game. This 24-19 is a very close score, but Houston actually dominated this entire game because their defense was just outstanding against the run. And if Kansas State can't run that football, they're in serious trouble. That's always an issue. And Houston, they were unranked and all this other stuff as well. But this really opens up the door for the Buffaloes to make a run at the championship now with the Big 12. And that's a scary, scary thought for myself anyway. But yeah, it was just a very, very stout game from the Houston Cougars defense.
Yeah, that to me, once again, anytime you're top 10, top 15, and you fall to an unranked team, it hurts. But this is shocking because Houston hadn't been playing that great that you think they were going to go in and beat K-State.
They had started to play better, though, the last couple of games, right?
Yeah.
Earlier this year, this Houston team looked absolutely horrid. I mean, horrible. But again, the coaching staff has done their job there at Houston, and they've gotten the defense to stand up to teams, and this is what happens.
No, they stood tall today.
Yep.
So some of the current scores that are still going on. We have University of South Alabama trailing Georgia Southern 34-30 on the fourth. Washington holding a narrow lead over USC 26-21 in the fourth.
Yep.
This will make you and Brock very happy. Right now, Clemson trails Louisville 26-7 with 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Texas A&M trails South Carolina 30-20.
And the two quarterbacks are both redshirt freshmen. Sweeney for South Carolina has just been a nasty, nasty runner every time he's gone out to the right tonight. Nick Scarleton has over pursued and gone after the quarterback. Oh, geez, how many times do I say that about these edge guys, that they over pursue their quarterbacks and they don't get how to set the edge? Oh, Micah Parsons, that's the other guy I'm thinking of. Yeah. And really, Sweeney has just been a masterful job tonight.
And Navy trailing Rice 17-7. Shocker there to me because we didn't expect Navy to drop two in a row. I expected them to lose to Notre Dame. I know you were saying Notre Dame might lose that one. I didn't expect that, but I didn't expect them to lose.
I was just nervous. I was nervous. I wasn't expecting the Fighting Irish to lose, but I was nervous.
Well, they were in a long weather delay. They're at halftime now. So
yeah.
There'll be more to come on that one. Back into some earlier scores. Let's get back into it. Syracuse survives.
They win in overtime.
Yeah, Virginia Tech at one point leading late in that game.
They were up 14-3 at the half and had a late lead as well, but Syracuse Kyle McCord brought them back.
I think Syracuse, when you look at them this year, we're seeing a little bit of a different team, right? One of the problems with Syracuse in the past was offensive struggles were given, right? They unless they could just run the ball on you, they struggle.
Yeah.
That's not this Syracuse team. This team seems to be a lot more balanced than in previous years. And I think that's one reason why when you look at them now, 6-2 overall. The two losses both in conference, so that kind of hurts them, the 3-2 in conference. But overall, 6-2.
They are bowl eligible.
Yes, with plenty of games to go. So they could easily be a double-digit win team.
Yep. Yeah, they can.
But nothing like going, having 9-10 wins. That would be great for Syracuse, something they don't do very often anymore. However, if you're Virginia Tech, 5-4, you have the same record in the conference, 3-2.
Yep.
Where does Virginia Tech go from here? I mean, honestly, they'll get at least one more win, so they'll be bowl eligible and all that. But this is a team that we used to talk about year after year would be a conference title contender. They would always have these quality to good teams. Very rarely did they just peak at mediocrity. And we're starting to see that with Virginia Tech now, right? They win it, so they win some games, they go to bowls, but they really don't top 6 or 7 wins very often, right? Maybe 8 on a good year. Yeah. So where does this team go? They're 5-4, 3-2 in the conference, so they're not dead in the conference, but 3-2 doesn't help you.
I think they're pretty much dead in this conference. I think they are.
So then, I mean, they're not going to play for a conference title.
No.
They're most likely going to be in a bowl somewhere, but where does this team go from here? I mean, next year they'll have some of the seniors are gone, and they'll bring some of the newer guys will come in. Do you go crazy in the transfer portal, try to improve this team immediately, or do you just go back out there and recruit your butt off with the young guys and just build a better program that's going to last you a little bit longer? What do you think is the better plan for this team? I don't know. I really don't know what Virginia Tech is trying to do here.
Well, I don't know what Brent Pry is actually trying to do at Virginia Tech. I really don't. He's 15-19 overall now?
Yeah, pretty much.
So again, how many guys can he actually bring to Virginia Tech in the NIL era, in the transfer portal? How many guys can he actually bring into Virginia Tech? I don't know that he can bring in that many people.
I mean, the beautiful thing is there's a load of talent in Virginia. There's so much talent in the state of Virginia.
Yep.
So you don't have to go crazy outside of your state. You want to get top prospects from outside of your state, but you want to meet the surrounding areas hard. You want to hit your state. You want to hit Maryland. You want not that there's a ton of schools in D.C., but you want to hit Maryland. You want to hit Virginia. You want to definitely hit your own state hard. A little bit of West Virginia too, since it's right next door. Tennessee is also a good place to start right there. The Carolinas are good places to pull from. So you have enough talent around you to pull from. And then that's not counting the long distance guys. I mean, granted, in this day and age of college football, with the transfer portal, it's harder to keep the long distance guys. I talked to a couple of college coaches in the off season about some of the guys, that I have at the high school here, and why don't they recruit Florida harder? And they say it's hard to keep them, especially in the north.
Yep.
Because those kids get homesick, they don't like the cold, and it's easier for them to just go back home, go somewhere warmer.
No, exactly.
So it's harder to keep the Florida kids, in those states. But you could easily win a lot of talent in Virginia, a lot of talent in Maryland. You can hit up the states around you, the Carolinas, like I said, even Georgia. There's good Georgia schools, no doubt, but there's still plenty of talent around that state. So they have plenty of places they could pull from. And it's just like, I just don't know. Look at this team. I don't see, when we do the draft coverage every year, what do we see? 4 or 5 Virginia Tech guys, maybe drafting and free agency, get a shot, maybe.
Yep.
And, it's like, so the talent that people are looking at the next level isn't there, and it shows in the program. They're just not getting, and this is a program that's put out talent over the years.
Oh, absolutely.
So we just don't see what's going on with this program, why it can't consistently be a better product on the field. It has some close losses. Let's not act like they're getting blown out.
No, they're not.
Miami game,
they're not being
the
blown
Miami
out.
game was a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker. This game, a heartbreaker. So those are 2 conference losses right there. All right. Yep. So outside the conference losses are the ones that they really scratch your head. All right. So it's that kind of thing that really makes you look at it and go, okay, what are they going to do to fix this? We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Pretty much. I mean, Pry's only been there since 2022, so he's only in his 3rd seasons.
Yeah.
So, but again,
but you should start to see the results by year 3. That's the point. You're not seeing.
Yeah. He's now 4 games under 500 as their head coach. And well, okay, what have you done for me lately is going to be the rallying cry from the alumni. And when alumni speak, well, ADs tend to listen.
You have to forgive me. I'm a little nasally. I was out in Daytona. I guess some pollen got me because now my sinuses have gone haywire. I must admit, I got a little emotional. When I saw the Eddie Robinson trailer.
You saw it? Yes. And unfortunately, Bethune Cookman
came back and won. Yes, they did. They did.
They came back and won.
Yeah. Grambling had a chance at the end. Done, and they were playing without their quarterback. The quarterback.
Yeah.
They had a few guys out, but it was interesting. It was an interesting game. It was a good game overall. Cookman was excited they got that home win. They hadn't won at home all year long.
Yeah, they're 2-7 now, and Grambling falls to 5-4, I believe.
Yeah, they're 4-5 overall, and 1-4 in the SWAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were 3-1 before they got heavy into the SWAC.
Yeah,
so, they're struggling inside the SWAC, but they have a lot of injuries and overall play. We'll talk off the air about certain other things about what I saw today. Not just both Grambling, both teams, but it's a thing I've seen around college football. We'll talk off the air about that.
All right.
But yeah, I did get a little emotional seeing Eddie. I didn't expect the trailer. When I walked down and I saw the Grambling trailer and Coach Rob.
Well, I saw your photo and I retweeted it out immediately when I saw it. And I was like, oh, I know what was going through your mind.
Yeah, I was there a year, and that man meant the world to me. Before I got there, he's the reason why I passed over 4 other HBCUs to walk on. If I'm walking on for Coach Rob and to leave early the way I did. But every moment I interacted with Coach Robinson was special.
It must have been. I mean, it must have been just you were in HBCU God land with Eddie Robinson. That was, I mean, he was, when I was growing up, because I'm 10 years older than you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the TV movie with the Grambling Tagger, the White Tagger,
Yes,
right?
Harry Belafonte
Harry Belafonte and all those guys.
Bruce, well, Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner now, but Bruce Jenner and LeVar Burton.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, having gone down to Louisiana, of course, I got relatives in the Baton Rouge area. I've been to New Orleans and stuff, and I made the trip out to Grambling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just a mandatory thing, right? And unfortunately, at that time, Grambling was on the road that week, so I didn't get to see Coach Robinson. I would have loved to have met that man.
Yeah, and that was probably when they had Tiger Stadium. That's probably when Robinson Stadium wasn't even built yet.
Yeah. It was Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tiger Stadium. It was still standing when I was there. My dorm, Pinchback Hall, actually overlooked. Yeah, because it was one of the few high-rise dorms we had on the wall side of the campus. So it actually overlooked Tiger Stadium. So there were times I came home from classes or from meals on a Friday evening, or not a Friday, on most evenings, and you hear the band. The band practiced.
At night.
But the team practiced over at Robinson's complex,
right?
Robinson Stadium. But the band practiced at Tiger Stadium. So you know, that's also where the high school would play. So I could go to the end of my floor and look out at the high school game. I didn't have to go and pay. I could just look down into the stadium and see the whole high school game. So
that would have been awesome.
It was some great memories of that school. Like I said, the year I was there. It was the first time I'd been around that program in 29 years. It hit me today. 29 years since I had been around that program. So brought back a lot of memories. You know, mostly of Coach Rob. Coach Rob was just an amazing guy, and everybody always talks about it. But you know, there's never a person that says anything bad about Coach Rob. It's hard to do it. It was just a good dude.
I never heard a single bad word said about Coach Robinson. The entire time I was in Louisiana, I never heard a bad word about Coach Robinson. You would hear bad words about everything that came out of Louisiana State, but there was never anybody saying anything bad about Coach Robinson. I mean, he was just a magical human being.
So we're about half an hour in. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more of the last word right after this. We'll get back and go into some scores, some more games. Stay tuned, everybody.
Enjoy 40% off site-wide. Vitable takes the guesswork out of feeling good. Get your own personalized daily vitamin pack safely delivered to your doorstep every month. Take their online quiz to find out which vitamins and minerals can support your personal needs based on your own diet and lifestyle. Hashtag only what you need, nothing that you don't. All vitamins are manufactured in Australia at the highest quality standard. Ingredients come in the best form for their absorption by your body. Enjoy 40% off site-wide using code NBS40 at checkout.
Greg, Notre Dame isn't the greatest school ever. You have to try at least and be biased. Another crazy college football Saturday is in the books. So let's get back to the show and discuss it all. Thanks for tuning in. The Last Word, a show for the real college football fan.
We're back here with the last word. Of course, I am Jeff Barnes along with Greg Rector, talking college football. Amazing week. The U remains undefeated once again. We were talking about some great games. We'll get one more to talk about after this. But the U, a team that just seems to have 9, 11, 22 lives, the way they keep playing. They go into games, they start blowing people away, they allow them to come back, and all of a sudden there's a dogfight at the end. Wasn't as much today. It got a little close. They pulled away. But overall, the U survives again.
Well, in the first half, it was a close game. It was in the fourth quarter where Miami did pull this game away. Cam Ward did his magic again in the second half. Unfortunately, right now, I have to say Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman at this point over Ashton Genty. Those are my top two players. I'm sorry, Travis Hunter, you just aren't going to be up there in my Heisman vote anyway. But again, Miami, absolutely, their offense is astounding. Restrepo is now the all-time leading pass receiving yardage guy. So Michael Irvin, Santana Moss, and all those other great Hurricane wide receivers, Restrepo is now the guy you look up to. He's also tied for the number of receptions in his career now as well. But Miami, they really don't impress me all that much, except for Cam Ward. Cam Ward really impresses me. And that man has just had a silver streak going a mile long this year.
Yeah, he's played very well. And it's one of those things where in the past few years, he's had some good games. He had some good games. He's had the injuries. He's had a lot of challenges during his college career. And for him to come out this year at Florida, at Miami, and consistently play well, consistently pulling through some tough times at the end of games, he's been a godsend for this program. Now, can they keep this up? They're going to win the ACC. I don't doubt that that's going to happen. So they're going to win the ACC. Are they undefeated when they win it? That's a question. But they're going to win the ACC. They'll go to the playoff. What happens with this team when we get to that point is a big question. Right now, Cristobal looks like, the guy that took Oregon to a national title game. But I think what you're looking at, to the playoff, not even a national title game. That was his predecessor, Chip Kelly, that took him to the national title. But he's looking like that guy again. And that's what, University of Miami boosters and administration were looking for when they brought him in there. And they said, we need you to come back and get us to that point. And he's got them looking like they're going to get there. The question is, can they finish? They finished the games that they needed to, but it's been very shaky in some of them. The Virginia Tech game,
the Cal game,
what was the other one? The South Carolina, I believe, was another one.
Yep.
So they've had a lot of shaky finishes, and they've had some shaky starts too. When they came down here to Tampa and they played USF, very shaky start. So they have to play overall a better, consistent brand of football.
They have to play better on defense. Their defense is a very shaky group. I don't see anybody on that Miami Hurricanes defense that I'm going to say is a first or a second round draft pick this year. There's nobody on there.
They have too many discipline breakdowns. That's the problem with that defense. There's talent all over the defense. It just has too many discipline breakdowns. There's coverages that are blown, and you wonder, how are you blowing these coverages this late in the season? There are run assignments, gap assignments that they blow. There's some missed tackles in space. There are a lot of discipline breakdowns, whether it's eye discipline, whether it's gap discipline, overall just tackling discipline. There's times where they blow coverages and you watch them afterwards and they're like the deer in the headlights. What just happened? What just happened was you blew an assignment that led to a big play. So
And as I was saying with Bill and Brock and Josh Keatley last night on the college football forecast show, the linebacker play this year is abhorrent all over the country. It is horrible. And Miami's linebackers are just absolutely bad. That's where that blown coverage is coming from a lot of the time, is the linebackers. And then the guys in the secondary, they can only cover somebody else for so long. And they're in trouble. And well, the Gamecocks have now gone up 35-20. They're about to kick the extra point. Texas A&M now has an SEC loss, folks, and that means there's a whole mess about to happen for the SEC, because that means the Crimson Tide can come back.
Well, I told you they weren't dead. We were talking about it. Yep. Everybody was saying, "Oh, they're dead now." That they what? They're not dead.
Nope.
They are not dead. I said it. 2 losses do not automatically disqualify you, unlike in the past.
That's right.
Now, with 12 teams and so many open spots, a 2-loss Alabama, a 2-loss Clemson, a 2-loss Georgia, all those teams can go to the playoff very easily with 2 losses. It'll be hard with 3, but 2 doesn't automatically knock them out. So that's the difference between having that 12-team playoff, is teams that had those multiple losses are not out there. It doesn't.
Those two team lost teams from the SEC. I want you to meet the Boise State Broncos, baby, because when you go to play Boise State on that blue turf, you're about to find out what a football team is all about this year. That Broncos team is just so good. I mean, the number that they did on San Diego State last night was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, they're just too much for San Diego State, though.
They were almost too much for the number 1 team in this country in week 1. They only lost by that field goal.
That's true. That's true. Very, very true. Indeed it is. Well, the checkerboard Vols are knocking on the door with a 3-point lead. So they're putting themselves in position to possibly wrap that game up with 5 minutes left against Kentucky. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll get the score up to the minute scores on the screen shortly.
And the Louisville Cardinal are beating Clemson 33-21.
Yes.
Mr. Brock, Dabo's losing.
So let's talk the game that ruined your day. Let's talk Penn State, Ohio State.
That was horrifying. It was horrifying.
Once again, I tried to warn
you. I know you.
James Franklin just does not beat Ohio State. Right.
And I was praying and hoping that today was the day, but no, it did not happen. And as I said before, this game ended in the first quarter for me when Ohio State came back and scored those 2 quick touchdowns after Penn State was up 10-0. If you don't put the hammer down on a team like Penn State at that point, when you score a pick 6 touchdown to go up 10-0, and then your defense absolutely went to sleep. They went to sleep on those 2 drives. And it was just horrifying. And as I mentioned before, Donovan Jackson played outstanding left tackle today. He shut down Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter had a nice sack, but Donovan Jackson, he really impressed me today. And again, the Ohio State running backs, they got their yardage today. Singleton and Keaton Allen, otherwise known as Fat Man. That's his preferred nickname, is Fat Man. That running back was born. He was 12 pounds at birth, so his mama called him Fat Man, and he prefers to be known as Fat Man. So Fat Man Allen.
Well, you don't want to hear another fat man named after Boss Man Fat. So
exactly right. Yeah, because Boss Man Fat was an. Oh yeah, what round was he drafted in by the Cowboys again? The 2nd round. Oh yeah, that round that Will McClay has no idea what he's doing. Okay. But yeah, it's it was just awful to see Ohio State dominate that way with a very, very much weaker offensive line than what they had to begin this year.
Well, I'll tell you what. Ohio State, when they go up against Penn State, matchup wise, one, they seem to be a little more physical. They seem to way more confident against Penn State and how they play each other. And it's not always scheme wise. It just seems to be like when they go up against Penn State, they just seem like, listen, we know how to beat these guys. We're going to come in here and do it again every year, whether it's our house or theirs. We're leaving with a W. And
but what bothered me about the Nittany Lions in the first half is that they gave the ball to Tyler Warren twice on running plays only. He did not catch any footballs. How can you have that type of a receiver and you don't get him the football down the field? And I was pumping up Koltanicki last night, but coach, you failed big time. You failed big time.
Yeah.
You don't get your best receiver the football in the first half. That's a horrible, horrible day. And that's what blew it for them. I mean, it was just a horrifying day.
Yeah, I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. People, this is Penn State. She had it undefeated. They don't play well against Ohio State. It's been several years now. James Franklin has not figured out that animal yet, And when he finally does, it's going to be a celebration either in Penn State or in
no, next year they don't play each other because the conference.
Well, I said next time they play each other. It ain't got to be next year. But next time they do, if they finally get it done, it's going to be a celebration in Happy Valley like you've never heard before because it's been so long since they could honestly say they won that rivalry game.
111,030 people, a new attendance record for Beaver Stadium, and those fans all went home unhappy. I still like the idea that the Penn State Nittany Lions had about their petition against Fox, because this should have been the night game that was the whiteout game, but no. That didn't happen for them. But, Penn State, again, next year they're going to have to play Michigan. They won't play Ohio State, more than likely.
Somebody who's supposed to be in a late game tonight. And I thought it was supposed to be, at one point, it was supposed to be that game. I guess they kicked it back up again. It made sense. But there was somebody who was supposed to start at like 11 o'clock Eastern or something like that. It was really weird, but yeah. So South Carolina is just all over Texas A&M right now. We'll get that score up shortly. TCU and Baylor. Baylor is knocking on the door with a tie score there in the fourth quarter. Getting back to Ohio State. So talking about not dead yet, right? So here they are. They have their one loss to Oregon.
Yep.
They're not totally dead. They're in the playoff right now. The season ends today.
Well, Penn State could still make the playoff as well.
Yeah, they'll both be in the playoff. I don't think that Penn State's going to need a couple of losses to be out.
Yep.
I don't know if that happens. I tell you what, though, if Ohio State keeps people in the game like they did today, they may get upset by Indiana.
Yep. Mr. Curtis Rourke is playing some very, very good quarterback, and the kids that Kurt Signetti brought with him from James Madison, they all contribute. They are dominant players. They're not the best players out there in the country. I'm not saying that, but as a unit together, they play football the way you want to see football played. It's complementary football. And that defense could stymie Egbuka and the young freshman Sims in the passing game. That's where I think Indiana's defense has the advantage. Trying to stop Henderson and Judkins is not going to be an easy task for the Indiana Hoosiers, but boy, in the passing game, Indiana has been phenomenal all year.
Yeah, my problem with Ohio State is offensively, we've seen them a lot more versatile. They're not that right now.
Yep.
Indiana plays very good defense. Their offense can get rolling in a big way. They are shocking people, right? So last year when these two teams played, it was not a blowout. Indiana was very much in that game.
Yep.
So if you think that you're just going to say we're Ohio State, yeah, you had a nice run, it's over. It's not that going to be easy. So they can get upset if they come out there and turn the ball over like they did today and make silly mistakes they did, fumbling the ball out of the end zone. You can't do that versus Indiana this time around. That team will beat you.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that makes Indiana such a great story this year is that it's not a short-lived flash in the pan success of 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins. They're not beating up on lesser opponents. They're beating on quality Big Ten opponents. Nebraska has not been the same since they got smashed by Indiana. And they didn't lose to them. They got smashed by Indiana.
Yeah, but they came right back and stood up to the Ohio State Buckeyes last week. I mean, they did. They gave Ohio State a hell of a good game. If Raiola had only been a more experienced quarterback, Nebraska would have beaten the Ohio State Buckeyes last week. But his inexperience cost Nebraska that game.
So I'm really anxious to see that game. I think that's going to be a great game to watch, to evaluate some guys, because they're not going to back down from Ohio State. So anytime you get a team that doesn't back down from the Bucks, you get a great game. So overall, I think that's going to be the main thing when it comes to, Indiana, when they match up against Ohio State, what happens next? How can they get the job done? SMU in Pitt is just a bloodbath, 48-11.
North Dallas is going to be wild tonight. Wow.
Well, they'll leapfrog Pitt in the rankings now. They were 18-20.
Yeah.
SMU will definitely overtake them now. But what say you about what we're seeing from A&M tonight? The Aggies getting beat handily by the Gamecocks.
I said earlier, Scarton was over pursuing and going after the quarterback. And when a quarterback is as quick as Sweeney is, that left the right-hand side wide open for that young man all night long. And he just smoked them. He smoked them.
Yeah,
and you go to South Carolina and you go to Columbia and you see that Storm crowd, all of those white towels just a waving at you, and they are not a quiet bunch. They are not quiet. That is a loud building.
And Rice continues to build on their lead, 23-7 over Navy. Navy back-to-back losses potentially. If this keeps up. The team we were talking about possibly going undefeated. They had to get past Notre Dame, which I didn't think they were going to beat Notre Dame. I know you were nervous about it. Notre Dame quieted that. We'll see what happens with Army in a few weeks at Notre Dame.
Oh, no, that's going to be the same story because Notre Dame's defense is healthy except for Mr. Morrison with his hip injury. But Leonard Moore, as I said to Bill 2 weeks ago on the college football forecast, Leonard Moore has been outstanding in coverage, and Christian Gray, the sophomore. So their cornerbacks, Jeff, their corners are fine now. They finally have corners at Notre Dame. It's a shock. It's a shock.
They had corners before, but
no, they didn't have 4- and 5-star corners.
We had quality corners. I mean.
Yeah,
Love was a good corner, and we've had a few that but they just weren't first round draft pick corners, right? We weren't the true 5-star corners. Everybody,
Exactly.
5 stars are definitely, so we didn't have true 5s. They had some guys that were rated 5, but they didn't play like.
Oh no, they were rated 5, but they came from up north where they and when they got into bowl games down south, these boys just got their asses kicked. Boom.
And Hart was a good corner, but he's more of a zone corner than he was a man corner, right? I think the closest you're going to get to a first round corner is Morrison, but I don't know what happens with Morrison with the knee injury. I don't know.
No, it's his hip injury, and it's not.
It's a hip injury. Sorry,
it's not major. It's enough to keep him from playing this season.
This year.
He will be fine. He will be fine for the Senior Bowl and for the Combine. So he's going to be good to go, and he'll show up at the Senior Bowl just to make sure his stock stays where it should be.
Okay, well, I look
and Will Johnson missed another game today too.
Yeah. Well, that's always the thing with the injuries, So,
and to get into Julio's comment here, that was a gift from Penn State to Nick Saban for his birthday. And so Saban put on the costume in that, but when Lee Corso put on the Buckeye today, I just kind of, oh no, here we go. It's a loss. Yeah.
I tried to warn you. I've said it week after week. They're just not built for that. James Franklin is a very good coach, and people in Penn State are mad at him. But
Mr. Beamer is just an absolute mess of human people.
You don't win 9 and 10 games every year if you're not a good coach.
Yeah, but South Carolina 44-20, and Coach Beamer is just surrounded by the fans. The media is all over him. Wow. Yeah, and he's in heaven. He's in heaven right now.
And we just went final. Dabo falls 33-21 Louisville.
All right, that's it. They're done.
They're
done. They're done. Cam Ward will still be there to play him in the ACC championship, and that'll be their third loss, and they're out. Their history. Goodbye, Dabo.
So with this loss, they're 6-2.
Yep.
Only one loss in the conference. All right. So they're not dead yet. Yeah, but 2 losses doesn't guarantee you miss the playoff. So I don't believe Clemson is dead yet. They were ranked 11th before this loss.
There's only one ACC team that's going into the playoff. There's only one ACC team that goes into the playoff.
There's an automatic bid. So
that's right.
I think there'll be more than one of the automatic bid.
No. They get the champion in. The SEC and the Big Ten teams will dominate the rest of the playoff, and so Dabo will be gone. Dabo will be out. Now that's according to all the experts out there that the ACC only gets one team in.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that cart before the horse just yet. I'm really convinced that if he runs the table the rest of the way, they still get him. He loses another game, he's definitely out. There's no way you get him with 3 losses at Clemson, not at that team. However,
and
2 losses.
And at this pace, the way that Miami's playing, when they play each other for the ACC championship, it's over. Yeah. Goodbye, Dabo. Because Cam Ward is a whole lot better quarterback than Clay Kubnik.
He is. Yeah. So it's time for the statement, Greg. You ready for this? It is. It's time for the statement. All right, Greg, who made the statement for you today in college football?
South Carolina State Gamecocks just made a huge statement because they took out a team that was unbeaten in the SEC and Texas A&M. really, I had South Carolina as a possible winner, but I didn't see them winning by 24 points. Because I had Texas A&M as the team that was going to knock off Texas. Just because of the way their defense has played so well, their running game would keep Ewers and all those other Bond and all that jazz off the field. And I figured Sarkisian would lose to Texas A&M. They still might, but boy, this was a beating tonight, an absolute beating.
Well, I'm going to go to the game that you don't want to talk about.
Oh, okay. No.
Right? Plain and simple. All right. Ohio State said what they do. Right? We own Penn State. They owned them again. Okay. I said it. James Franklin can't beat this school. It is something with Ohio State. I don't know if it's how they're built. I don't know if it's at this point a mental thing because you've lost so many times to them in a row. But sometimes a team has your number, and eventually you get over it. They haven't gotten over it. Right? There still is something going on there. So Penn State falls to them again. Ohio State is asserting their dominance. Oregon got them. They said, all right, Oregon got us. But we ain't losing to you. Right? And guess what? They still got other squads on that schedule that they're like the same thing. Oregon got us. We ain't losing to you. Okay? Do not write Ohio State off. People started doing that. Oh, Oregon got them. That's it. They're going to lose now to Penn State. They're going to lose to this. Don't write Ohio State off because they lost to Oregon. Oregon has traditionally been a problem for Ohio State the past few years because of the kind of matchup they are. They're a tough speed matchup for Ohio State. However, when it comes to playing in the Big Ten, there's only one team that's given Ohio State the business the past few years, and that has been Michigan. That dog, unfortunately, doesn't hunt anymore, because we've seen today. All right, Michigan will not beat Ohio State this year, so that's not even a factor.
Okay, no, the Ohio State Buckeyes are a playoff-bound team.
Yeah, so they're going to the playoff. While Oregon may take the conference, it is going to be Ohio State right there with them in that playoff. They are not done. People thought they were done after the Oregon game. They thought they were going to be done today after they lost to Penn State. Not so fast, my friend, as Coach Corzo says. That's not what they do. They do not constantly lose in the Big Ten. And there's only been one team that, as we like to say, that goes and gets them got. Okay? They weren't getting got by Penn State. It wasn't happening. Okay? Plain and simple, Ohio State isn't going anywhere. All right. For the people that want them to fall, the rumors of their demise have been exaggerated. All right. So, to me, Ohio State, once again, made the statement saying, we're still here. Greg, let's start to look ahead to next week as we prepare to wrap up the show and start looking at some matchups for next week that are going to be key. All right. So, once again, we got some early week action next week.
Yes, we do.
So, we got some Tuesday night action going on. Buffalo, Ball State, Bowling Green, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, and Toledo. Wednesday night, Kent State and Miami of Ohio, Akron, NIU. I know you hate to hear NIU. Eastern Michigan, Ohio. Thursday, we got one game. East Carolina, Tulsa. Then Friday, Wyoming, Colorado State. Then North Texas and UTSA. As well as UCLA, Washington.
Yep.
West Coast matchup there. Houston, off the big win today, goes to Arizona. They go on the Desert Swarm, who are getting embarrassed currently. All right, so then we get into big game Saturday. How about the Vols traveling to Athens?
Oh, boy.
Both teams are one-loss teams.
And both teams do the same thing every single week. They both start slowly. Both of them. They start slow. If the Vols, well, Etienne didn't play after he hurt his rib here in the first half, so we'll have to see how Etienne is in terms of being a running back for the Bulldogs next week, because he didn't come back in at all. He stayed out there with his helmet on and all that jazz, but he did not come out and play a down. So we'll have to see what his rib injury actually is. It's gonna be a tough game.
So we just saw Dabo lose his second loss.
Yep.
Does he not Pitt from the ranks of the undefeated? Well, let me scratch that, because Pitt right now is struggling.
Is being pounded.
Yeah, so they won't be undefeated next week. So 1-loss Pitt versus 2-loss Clemson. Are they able to go into Pittsburgh, rebound, and stay in the playoff picture? Or are they done next week when they go to Pittsburgh?
I prefer the latter suggestion.
We prefer. I don't know if it happens.
Yeah. We'll have to see if Clemson shows up, because they didn't show up tonight against Louisville. They did not show up to this game.
No, they didn't. You could. So you're telling me we need to break the fork out for Clemson next week?
I'm thinking that the fork may hit Clemson next week. Yep.
Okay.
Because you gotta go to Pitt, and Pitt Stadium is not a fun place for any visitor. I don't care who you are. You go to meet the Pitt Panthers in that stadium, and you are in for a dogfight. Ask Syracuse.
So we have a bunch of interesting games next week, right? So,
oh yeah,
Cincinnati goes to Iowa State. Iowa State took a tough L today. Will they lose 2 in a row next week?
Cincinnati, I don't think has enough talent to match up with Iowa State this year. But again, Texas Tech had enough talent, and Cincinnati is a better team than Texas Tech.
The resurgent Gators. Okay. Somehow, some way have clawed their way up to 4-4. And they get to host the LSU Tigers next week.
Yes, they do.
Does LSU avoid the upset?
I believe Brian Kelly avoids the upset, especially with Lagway being out.
So let's talk Brian Kelly before we move on. Supposed to go to LSU, win the national title that he couldn't win at Notre Dame. A couple years in,
or at Cincinnati, or anywhere else he's been.
You're just sticking a knife in, aren't you?
I'm not a Brian Kelly fan. You know this.
I know this. I know. So, how does LSU look at his tenure so far? He was supposed to be the guy that, could finally help them stick it to Saban. Well, Saban's gone. He ain't sticking it to anybody right now. He's just doing the same thing he did at Notre Dame. A good coach, a winning team, but they don't get the big wins.
Yeah.
He had a Heisman winner at one point. He had the guy that went second in the draft, and still nothing.
He had two really good receivers last year, and Brian Kelly's biggest issue has been his lack of beef on the defensive line. They're defensive tackles. They play nice, but they're too damn small. For the SEC, they are too small. You can't play finesse football in the SEC. You cannot get away with being. Look at Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
their defensive tackles at Vanderbilt are not the biggest guys, but boy, they don't stomach being pushed around by anybody. but those LSU guys, they just are too soft. And I said it last year when the two tackles were drafted in the draft. I think they're just too light. They're not big enough. They're not tough enough. And until LSU addresses that defensive side of the football, you can have all the offense you want, but it's not going to win you anything.
So, SMU, off the big win today, the Ponies get the host Boston College, who started off hot. It's kind of cooled off in recent weeks.
They've really cooled off.
Can SMU keep going?
Yeah. I think North Dallas has reason to finally be able to celebrate that the SMU Mustangs are back in the college conversation, and it's a good thing to see.
It'd be great to say Bama has a tough game next week. They play Mercer. Okay, so they will not have a tough game. Even though, yes, Mercer is 8-1, they're not going into Tuscaloosa and beating Bama. So
that's just a payday for the Mercer University. Yes. That's just a payday. Yes.
So Tulane and Navy, 7-2 Tulane, 6-1 Navy. People don't see that as a big game, but that is a huge game for those two teams. Two teams that are playing very well this year. That should be a very interesting game.
Yep.
Well, I'd say 6-2. Navy's losing now to Rice. So
exactly.
6-2. So it won't be a one-loss Navy team. It would be a two-loss Navy team. Irish have it easy. If you'll go out there and blow that game against Virginia, we're going to talk next week.
If we don't beat that team, I'm not gonna be here. I'll be in hiding.
They will find you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Syracuse, Cal, big game there. Can they go out west and continue their momentum?
Boy, that's a long trip for Syracuse. And Cal, as we've already seen this year when they played Miami, when they're at home, they are one tough team to come. You come to Berkeley, and that's not a fun trip.
Mm-hmm.
So Cal could come out the winner on that one.
Colorado hosts Utah.
Utah's done.
See, but we've seen Colorado, right? We know Colorado struggles on the line of scrimmage. Utah traditionally has a good defense, pathetic offense, but a very good defense. Can Shador and company move the ball consistently up and down the field to keep this game from staying close?
I think so. I think I just don't see it. If this was last year's Utah team, I would tell you, oh no, the loss for the Colorado Buffaloes is coming, because last year's defense in Utah was a whole lot tougher than this bunch has been.
So late in the game, we're tied here. TCU, Baylor, both tied at 34. There's 10 seconds left there. I believe Baylor has the ball.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you up to date on that. Also, man. All right. So Mizzou, 6-2. Who knew, right? The way they started, 6-2. Heads to 5-3. South Carolina coming off the big win tonight.
And the South Carolina quarterback will outperform the Missouri quarterback because the Missouri quarterback is hurt. Gable's got that injured ankle, and if he is still going to be out there, if his ankle isn't healthy enough, why put him out there? Why? I didn't agree with him starting last week because his ankle went again. What are you doing? That's a kid. You don't put these kids out there when they're injured. You do not do this.
Mhm.
You don't do this. I don't care if this kid is the second coming of heaven. If he's got that ankle injury, you let him rest because you had the bye, and but no. So I think Missouri probably loses this game. I think Mr. Beamer will celebrate again next week.
All right. So last one, Nebraska has been teetering on the board of going down to 500 after a hot start. USC is a game under 500, could be 2 games under 500 if they let Nebraska come out west and beat them next week.
Yep.
Well, does USC get it done next week? And if they lose this game, what is the outlook on Lincoln Riley's future there out west? Because they do not take well to having a big name, supposedly big time coach come in and flounder like this.
Well, after the Saturday after Thanksgiving Day, you're going to know if Lincoln Riley is going to survive anything, because if Notre Dame comes in and stomps on them the way that they did to the same team last year that had Caleb Williams and all those superstars, Lincoln Riley, you're gone. You are gone. And again, you're a great offensive coordinator, but you are not a head coach. I don't care if you know how to run an offense. If you don't understand special teams and the defensive side of the football game, you should not be a head coach. That's the bottom line. And that applies to so many of these guys out there. It is ridiculous.
So we'll be back next week for more of the last word. Of course, Greg and I will be here, or at least Greg, depending on, once again, I'm on the road next week.
On your schedule. Where are you next week? Are you at UCF?
I will tell you in a moment.
Or USF?
Next week is 11-9. So I will be at USF for Navy.
Aha. That's the game I thought you were going to.
Yep. So I'll be there for Navy. And then I am not on the road again until the Florida Blue Classic, which is FAMU and BCU. So that's the week before.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. So yeah, we're getting down to the nitty gritty with college football.
Well, Brock will be available next week.
So Brock will be back in the building. Look at that. So we potentially have all 3 of us back. Depends on what time kickoff is for USF. If it's a noon kickoff, it's a mid-window kickoff, the 3:30 kickoff type deal, 4 o'clock, I should be back in time. If it's a 7 o'clock kickoff, there's no way I'm getting back here in time. It just, by the time you get out of the stadium, USF's a fast-paced offense, and their games are never fast. It's slow. It's a long game. So it's like watching Tennessee. Tennessee's games are 4 hours plus because they don't huddle. It's all go, 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 go. So the same thing with USF. So good thing is the middies run the ball. So if they're having a lot of success against that USF defense, it may go faster than anticipated. But either way, I'll let you guys know.
The Huskies Huskies beat the Trojans 26-21.
There you go. So yeah, you'll probably have us back next week. Make sure you're tuning in the morning. Get up nice and early. Get your coffee ready. 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We're talking Moving the Chains with Ashmere, Joe Cardozo, and myself in the morning, talking NFL action. And Greg will be in the chat.
And it's Eastern Standard Time tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm so tired of everybody putting in EST all year round when it's the EDT time. But
Yes.
tomorrow is Eastern Standard Time because we all get to save an hour, okay?
Yes. This is the best night of the year. You get that extra hour of sleep. I'm making sure I go before the clocks go back. I'm going to bed tonight. I'm making sure I do it. So, yes, I am. Oh, and Baylor wins on a field goal. Look at, we stayed on just long enough to catch Baylor's win over TCU, and the fans are storming the field. See, I've been fortunate not to be on the field when that's happened. So,
boy, I'm telling you, an SMU versus TCU game, I don't care which stadium you go to, Fort Worth or Dallas, that would be fireworks. Absolute fireworks right now, the way SMU's playing. Oh,
yes. So, yeah, we're going to see next week what's going on. We get some big matchups. Make sure you're tuning in for the Moving the Chains in the morning. We're going to be talking some football, some NFL football, some great matchups to talk about, and of course our picks. Once again, Ashmere's leading, not by much, but she's leading the way in picks. But there's some guys on the tail.
I am so disappointed in my one lone wolf pick last week. Tyreek Stevenson was in the right spot. Yes, he had that mess on the sideline, but where was that other defender to cover Noah Brown? What the hell? You do this. It's a walkthrough. It's a walkthrough every week, isn't it, Jeff? It's done as a walkthrough, the Hail Mary. And you are taught to cover the guy in the back of the zone. Where was that bear that was supposed to cover that man?
You have the corners, and everybody else is supposed to latch on to a guy and box him out. Yeah, those three deep guys, they're responsible for knocking the ball down.
Which Tyreek Stevenson was the guy who was supposed to knock the ball down, but instead his jump was just not high enough, and he tipped the ball. Where was the secondary guy that was supposed to cover Noah Brown? So you can blame Tyreek Stevenson all you want, but it was the other secondary player who did not box out for Noah Brown, and that would have been my lone wolf pick last week. It should have happened, even though the Bears should not have won that game because Washington did outplay them.
That's why you got to have more than one lone wolf pick, right? So you got to figure out who else to go lone wolf on. I was fortunate most weeks to at least have one of my lone wolf picks hit. I think I only went lone wolf once last week, and I missed on it. No, thank you to those darn Seahawks. I will never lone wolf on you again, the way you're playing. However, I've had plenty of them go my way.
Well, I'm still what, one game behind you?
I went 0 for 2 on my lone wolves last week, actually.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, Miami let me down. They had the Cardinals beaten, and they let me down. Yes, but it was. So
I should only be one game behind you now.
Looking at the standings, you are 2 games behind me.
2? Okay.
2. And you are 1, and I'm 1 game behind Ashmere. And Joe's lying in the weeds, but he's back over 500. He was the hottest dude last week, 13-3.
That's good. That's gonna have to end tomorrow.
He's 4 games behind you, though. So
yeah.
But we'll see you in the morning. Go get that coffee, get that stuff ready to go. We're gonna be ready. Get your coffee ready. Make sure you're tuning in to Moving the Chains in the morning. We'll be back next week with more of The Last Word here on Team MBS Media. Thanks for watching. For Greg Rector, for myself, Jeff Barnes, thanks for watching. We will see you next week.
Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. Thank you.
Boom. Just what he said. Take care, everybody. See you next week.